Gev, Patan, and Vivian stood before the massive door that towered over them. The door was a colossal structure, standing at least 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide. Its surface was made of an unknown metal, smooth yet worn with age, giving off a dull gleam in the ambient light of their surroundings. The door was intricately inscribed with words in at least 4 different languages, none of which they could decipher. The inscriptions were carved deep into the metal, their edges softened by time, hinting at the door's ancient origins. "It's clearly a warning," Gev said, his voice a low rumble as he gestured toward the text with his furry, clawed hand. His claws, sharp and glistening, tapped the lowest text, which was at their eye level. They wouldn't have written it in so many languages if it wasn't important. Patan, standing beside Gev, extended his upper tentacles to stroke the sunken carved letters. His chromatophores, tiny pigment cells on his skin, shifted and swirled, reflecting his curiosity. "I'm sure whatever is behind this door is dangerous," he replied, his tentacles gently tracing the ancient symbols. His movements were almost reverent, aware of the text's historical significance. Vivian stood a few steps back, frowning at them for touching the ancient text. Her archaeological training was screaming in her head, warning her against any physical contact with such a precious artifact. She adjusted her glasses, the lenses reflecting the door's engravings. "It's unfortunate we can't understand it," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "We could learn so much from these inscriptions." Gev's furry ears twitched as he turned to face Vivian. "Why can't we?" he asked, his tone skeptical. "We can try to translate it." Gev laughed, a harsh, barking sound that echoed off the metal door. "These people have been gone for millennia," he said, shaking his head. "No one has spoken their language in over 1,000 solar cycles. Sometimes there are things we'll never know." Vivian scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. "If you think that way, sure, but I'll give it a try." "You can keep surveying," she said, determination evident in her voice. She walked over to her equipment, her movements purposeful as she began unpacking a portable sensorium from its carrying case. Patan's chromatophores flashed in confusion, the colors swirling faster. "Vivian, you're an archaeologist, not a linguist," he said, his tentacles waving slightly. "How will you learn an ancient language?" "I'm not a linguist, but I know some," Vivian replied, not looking up as she assembled the framework of the sensorium. "Don't you network, Patan? Make friends outside your field?" Her hands moved deftly, clipping together the framework and attaching recording devices at regular intervals. Patan's swirling colors stopped, settling into a curious blue. "I do, but humans must do it differently," he said, watching her work. Vivian chuckled, a light, melodic sound that contrasted with the serious atmosphere. "We're not that special, Patan," she said, her eyes briefly meeting his before returning to her task. Gev's fur rippled, a sign of his amusement. "You're being modest. Your planet has a giant moon that must have affected your development," he said, his voice teasing. Vivian looked up, a hint of a smile on her lips. "Moon power makes humans unique." "Really, Gev?" she said, raising an eyebrow. Gev's teddy bear-like ears waggled playfully, adding to his comical appearance. Despite his intimidating size, there was a softness to him that was endearing. After about 1/10 of a cycle of work, Vivian had the sensorium completely set up around the door. She signaled their ship in orbit, her fingers dancing over the controls, and it dialed a connection. The screen flickered to life, and a tall, imposing figure appeared. It was a grin, with reverse articulated legs and many sets of eyes, each one glinting with intelligence. "Vivian, you old battle star," the grin greeted, their voice booming through the connection. "What do you need?" Vivian smiled, relief evident on her face. "Tamar, I need your help with this door. It looks like pre-fall Helen, but the languages aren't Helen," she explained, stepping aside to give him a better view of the inscriptions. Tamar leaned in, studying the text with a thoughtful expression. "This one looks like late 300th dynasty Yudan. I can't read it, but Professor Philomena at Breen University can help," he said, his many eyes shifting to focus on Vivian. Vivian nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Thanks, Tamar. I'll call her," she said, grateful for his quick assessment. "Let me know what you find," Tamar said before the connection ended, his image flickering out of existence. Vivian spent the next solar day making calls, her communicator constantly in hand. She spoke with various experts, each one providing a piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, Gev and Patan continued their survey, their equipment humming as they took measurements and gathered data. "Vivian is wasting her time," Gev grumbled, adjusting his scanner. She has permission to do this, Patan replied, his tentacles deftly maneuvering his tools. If we could translate the text, it would be helpful. Humans waste time on the impossible, Gev muttered, his ears flattening in irritation. Just before the evening meal, Patan and Gev returned to the door. Vivian was deep in conversation with a Caxi, one of the few sapient species shorter than humans. The Caxi's eyes sparkled with excitement as they spoke. This door changes everything we knew about the late 300th dynasty, the Caxi said, their voice high-pitched and enthusiastic. You'll get co-authorship, Vivian. Thanks, Lim. Let me know when you need my notes, Vivian replied, her smile widening at the prospect of contributing to such groundbreaking research. As she packed up the sensorium, Gev approached, his expression one of curiosity. Have you given up? He asked, his tone softer than before. No, Vivian said, reading from her pad. The door says it should remain open from dawn to dusk, with weapons surrendered at the entrance. It's a protocol note for a builder administration building. Gev's eyes widened in surprise. You translated it? He asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Patan's chromatophores shifted to an impressed green. This means they had a far-reaching influence, he said, his voice filled with awe. Vivian nodded, her excitement palpable. Knowing what the door says opens up many new questions, she said, her mind already racing with possibilities. Gev's ears twitched, and Patan's colors shifted. Amazing, Vivian. You figured this out in a day, Gev said, his tone respectful. I didn't do it alone. I knew people who could help, Vivian said, picking up the sensorium case. It's not what you know, but who you know.